Good evening, everyone. It's Shawn the Baptist with you for Shawn the Baptist Live on this June 2nd. We are finally out of Easter, Pentecost, everything. We're back to what is called ordinary time in the modern calendar, or I like better time through the year, tempus per annum in the Latin, and gives us a better sense of simply just it's ordinary. No, it's the time where we go through the year with Jesus, and I'm doing something a little bit different tonight. I promised last week when I was talking some scouting stuff that I would give a little bit of a scouting theme tonight. So I'm wearing my uniform here. I've been a scout a long time, so I got all the stuff. I do the scouting thing. It's my 35th year of being a scout, and so I talk a lot about it. A lot of my homilies come from scouting experience, and so it's a pretty big deal for me, and one of the things that I really do love to do. So I am happy to today try to share a little bit of that with you, and it's pretty timely because tomorrow evening, in fact, Thursday evening, I am going to be flying from Kansas City to Albuquerque, where I will stay overnight in Albuquerque, and then on Friday, I am going back to Philmont. I want to go back to Philmont. Want to go back to Philmont where the old Riata flows. The water's so low. So I want to be there, and I'm gonna be. It's a special place, and I'm gonna spend the whole month of June as a chaplain down at Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico, and we will talk all about that, and so you can get an idea of what that is about. What is this Philmont that I keep talking about, and particularly, why does it matter? What's all this scouting stuff about? Fill us in, Father Sean. We don't understand the scouting stuff, and so I will happily oblige to try to explain tonight. Um, a little bit of what all this scouting stuff is about, why I do it, and why it's an important ministry that I certainly believe in, and I look forward to sharing a little bit of it with you. Before we get to that, as I did say, a little bit of a liturgy update. This is the time we get back to the through the year with Jesus, and so in case you're wondering, the days after Pentecost are what they're called in the extraordinary form, and I really like that because it gives a sense of not just ordinary, but these are the days after Pentecost. What are we going to do with that? So spiritually, that's where we're at. We are living after Pentecost. So we had the whole celebration of Pentecost, then the octave of Pentecost, and now we live in the days after Pentecost. So that's where we're living in the church's calendar, and so we focus on living out the Holy Spirit. So that's what that's about during this time. So there's your kind of spiritual nerd stuff for the night. I'm gonna now turn my attention a little bit to focus on what about Philmont? And so I have been spending my summers at Boy Scout camp most of the 35 years that I have been a scout. That I've been normally at our council summer camp. So I started off here in Kansas City in the Heart of America Council. We have two council summer camps, and I grew up about 15 minutes from Camp Nash, where I went as a camper, and then later came back on staff. I'm a member of Tamagonnet Lodge of the Order of the Arrow. I'm a Vigil Honor member. Some of you saw my video of taps that I did on Memorial Day, and my Vigil Honor name, so my Native American name that I was given when I was honored with the Vigil Honor from the Order of the Arrow, which is like society the honor society of Boy Scouting, if you will. The Native American name that I was given is Ginshimun Wasatchguk. That's Lenni Lenape or Delaware Indian. That means sounding oak. And here's the deal, because when I was on staff at Camp Nash, I would always bugle at the flag ceremonies. True story. The first merit badge I ever earned, the first merit badge on my sash is bugling merit badge. And a lot of you know I play the trumpet, so I really love that. And people ask, how'd you get started playing the trumpet? Well, I actually read in my Boy Scout handbook, do you play the trumpet? You could be your troop's bugler. Well, we found the old beat up bugler in the troop trailer, and I said, well, I want to learn how to do that. So I literally started playing the trumpet because I wanted to be my troop bugler, and the rest is history now. And I was, and so I would bugle at flag ceremony every morning and evening at scout camp. And one day, lightning struck a tree that was right kind of near the flag mall. So it's maybe about 20 yards away from the flagpole, and lightning struck this tree, and so it got chopped down. But they left the stump of the tree about 3 feet off the ground, maybe 4 feet off the ground, and I jumped up on top of it, and I literally I played my bugle from up on top of this stump. Um, and eventually the ranger like took the chainsaw and cut some steps in the back of the stump for me. And well, then some other staff members chopped down my stump, and you know who you are, Dave Evans. My stump got chopped down, and but my legacy as bugling on top of that stump lives on in my Native American vigil name, Ginshimun Wasashkat, Sounding Oak. So that is where my name comes from, because people remembered that I bugled on top of a stump. So if you saw that video from Memorial Day, that well, I got my start there bugling way back to become a scout bugler. And I don't, probably some of you saw that um, on I don't even know if I could potentially, no, I don't even have it to share it. But what I did want to do tonight was then show a little bit about my scouting background, and particularly get to Philmont. But so I started at Camp Nash, and then I eventually my camp, the other council scout camp in the Heart of America Council, is the H. Robartle Scout Reservation near Osceola, Missouri, and it's named after H. Robartle, the famous mayor of Kansas City. A lot of people don't realize that the Kansas City Chiefs are actually named after H. Robartle, because, like the Order of the Arrow, which has a lot of Native American influence, H. Robartle was a blood brother of a real Native American in Wyoming, where he was a young scout executive. In 1929, he came to Kansas City and brought with him this program that he had developed with the Native American people out in Wyoming. He was really impressed with the way that the natives would raise their young boys to become warriors in their tribe. How do you take a brave and make him into a warrior? How do you take a boy and make him into a man? Uh, Natives have a process by which they kind of help do this as a tribe, and Bartle was fascinated with that, and so he worked with his chieftain blood brother to create what became known as the tribe of Mikkosay. It is also a Native American word that essentially means friendship and warmth. And he brought that program to Kansas City. And the symbol of the tribe of Mikkosay are eagle claws. So in addition to my vigil honor, I also have my eagle claws here as a keeper of the sacred bundle in the tribe of Mikkosay that H. Robardo created. So I am also very, most of those, not, well, 30 of those 35 years have been basically spent as a tribesman, I guess a little more now. Um, so that's kind of my Kansas City scouting connection. I've served on a lot of different committees and things like that. In fact, most of the time these days, I feel like, man, I'm getting a little tired of doing all my scouting in a conference room. The COVID has been a mess. I'm really ready to get back out and do some scouting in the great outdoors again. So, in addition to council camps, however, um, we have some national Boy Scout camps, and those we call high adventure bases often, and there are four of those. The first and most famous of which is Philmont in New Mexico, which is where I'm going to go. But before we talk about that, there's also Northern Tier High Adventure Base in the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness of northern Minnesota and southern Canada. I've been there. I've done like a 12-day canoe trek through there. There's also Florida Sea Base down in the Florida Keys, which, as you might imagine, is focused a lot on sailing and things like that. Um, so they do scuba and water things, and so that's all down in the Florida Keys. The latest high adventure base that we added is the Summit Bechtel Scout Reserve in West Virginia near the White River Gorge there, which just became another national park, I guess. Um, so that's the latest one. So there are four national high adventure bases, but Philmont is the the first one, and so it's the most famous one. It began uh, the name Philmont actually comes from the person who gave the land, which his name was Waite Phillips. He and his wife Genevieve and Waite Phillips. You would recognize their name from Phillips 66. He was from, well, he made a bunch of money in oil in Oklahoma, and eventually uh, was interested in ranching and the West, and so he he bought a bunch of land in a pretty historical land grant area of New Mexico, and it's right where the Great Plains meet the Rocky Mountains. And so if you're at base camp at Philmont, it is flat to the east as you look to the horizon, and then the Rocky Mountains, the Sangre de Cristo range of the Rocky Mountains is is right is right there to the west. And so it's a place where there's ranchings and mountains, and also mining, railroading, all this, all in that area. So um, that's the historical part where Wade Phillips basically had it as a vacation sort of place, and he then donated that land uh, to the Boy Scouts so that they could enjoy it. So 1938, uh, 1938, Wade Phillips gives his first gift. I think that's right. 1938 gives his first gift of land uh, to the Boy Scouts so that they could use it, and he wanted to kind of see what they would do with it. And so I forget how many acres. It was like 30,000 acres or something that he first gave. Really liked what they were doing with it, so eventually he gave a bunch more in like 1942 or so, and then the total gift today with a few more additions, it's 140 some thousand acres. So it is the largest youth camp I think in the world. Maybe this summer there will be around 25,000 uh, scouts there. So it is a large place. 25,000 scout participants and about 1,200 staff. So I will be one of those 1,200 staff down there. So it's a well it's a big adventure. Uh, so I want to try to show a few pictures of things, and I'm trying to figure out how to get that started. So my first experience of Philmont, I was actually in high school, and our family took a family vacation, as we always did in the summer, and we were going across southern New Mexico, visit an aunt of mine in Albuquerque. We went north, and then we went up through Mesa Verde and Colorado. And on the way, I'm like, we're gonna go right by Philmont, so we need to go see it. And I think that was like 90, 93, around there. So my first visit to Philmont was actually not as a participant or staff or anything. My first visit to Philmont was just a sightseeing because we were in the area and decided I want to go see it. So much to the dismay of my sister, we drove to Philmont and we saw it. What you can see from base camp from the parking lot. Uh, but that was my first trip there. But my real first experience of Philmont from the participant side came in 1996. And let's see if I can get this up here for you. This is my crew from 1996. Standing in base camp, so you can see the little tents behind us. That's where everyone who comes to Philmont, their first night, you stay in what's called camping headquarters or base camp to kind of get used to the altitude, and then you head out onto the trail the next day. But if you look at the big ridge behind me, that little pointy part on top, kind of in the center, is called the Tooth of Time, and it's actually right around the route of the Santa Fe Trail, because that little rock outcropping was something that people used to know that they're almost to Santa Fe. There's a certain number of days that you get to the Tooth of Time. You're X number of days from Santa Fe and the end of the Santa Fe Trail. So that's Tooth of Time is the biggest kind of thing that is seeable from base camp that people will look to. So that was my crew in '96. All right, let's pull up when I went back. So this is my crew in 2006 when I went back for what is known as the St. George Trek of the Catholic Committee on Scouting. So the essence of a Philmont program is basically 12 days of backpacking plus a day on either side coming and going. So there's me on the front row, and right to my left and the right in the picture as you look at it is Bishop Dan Conlon, the now retired bishop of Stephenville and Pittsburgh, and so he and I were the two advisors with these 10 other guys, and so we spent the regular Philmont trek there. So it's interesting to see those pictures now 10 years apart like that. But there's me and Bishop Conlon and our St. George trek crew. This is always, you take this picture on the morning before you head out. So there we all are looking into the morning sun right before we're ready to hit the trail. And the way that the St. George trek works is that you gather Catholic scouts from all around the country, and they've never met each other before. So we get together for like 2 days of retreat, and then go up to Philmont, do the Philmont program. So each crew of the St. George trek is led by priests and seminarians, and in this case, bishop. And so the young men and young women, we've had crews of young women as well that have religious sisters as their leaders. It gives them a chance to not only get the Philmont experience, but also to get the one-on-one time with priests and bishops and seminarians. And a lot of good vocations have come out of this. Um, so that was a beautiful kind of time for me there. Um, here's a picture of let's see, me kind of up in the. I can get me up there. I'm trying to figure out my pictures. I wish I could blow these up better. So here's me on top of that Tooth of Time. There you go. So that's on top of the Tooth of Time, looking to the west behind me, and so there's a little valley down there over us. But that's from 2006, and what a great trek that was. Sorry for you on the podcast who can't see the pictures. You're gonna want to go to YouTube our Philmont or Facebook after this, so you can see the pictures. Um, yeah. So pull you up another picture here. Here's another shot of the tooth of time, so you can kind of see how it sticks out like that. That's actually me from 2 years ago, when I was down as a chaplain. So that's a little bit of the ridge there. So anyway, a few pictures of Philmont to give you a little taste of what that looks like. Um, so I mentioned that the program, 25,000 scouts, and they're all coming from around the country, arriving by multiple ways. So when I first went to Philmont, I arrived by train. My scout troop in '96, we took the train from Kansas City down to Raton, New Mexico, which is about 50 minutes north of Philmont. And you arrive by train. People come by bus. I mentioned I'm flying down to Albuquerque this time, so that works. That works too. But the train was certainly an experience. It was my first time ever on a train. So I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. I don't think I ever would have maybe gotten to ride on a train if it weren't for my Philmont days. So that's something as well. Okay, so a little bit about the Philmont program. Those people in the picture that I mentioned, you notice that there's a staff person with us each time, and the person that leads this as a staff person is called the ranger, and something that began a little over 50 years ago, actually now. That unlike a normal council summer camp where you go and you're like in the care of the staff the whole time, when you're at Philmont, you've got a little bit more of a free run of the place. So what happens is when you first get there, you are met by your ranger, your staff person, and he will actually go out with you on your trek for the first 2.5 days. Basically, he meets you in base camp, goes around, teaches you all that you need to know, but then on day 4, your ranger leaves you, and you are on your own as a crew then to figure out what to do, and your ranger has instructed you, so it's not like you're completely just fending for yourself. But um, it is a chance for scouts to test themselves. And so one thing that I really love about Philmont is that it does force these young men and women who largely late junior high, high school age kids that are participating, and it's a challenge. As you might imagine, even if you've been doing some scouting, coming to Philmont means you've probably going backpacking really for one of the first times in your life. And so you get out there and you're in a real woods, in real mountains, and as a chaplain, I know that we can get vehicles, if we need to in emergencies, to just about every part of the ranch. But as a participant, as far as you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, they're bears and mountain lions, and it's all real. And you're carrying 40, 50 pounds on your back, especially the scouts who don't pack very light. And you're out there in God's country doing it, and there are challenges and obstacles. And this is where I think, especially in the church today, there's this notion to kind of make everything easy, dumb things down, don't challenge anybody, just kind of beige. Well, Philmont is an actual real challenge, because it's a real wilderness with real obstacles. No one's gonna lower the mountain to make it easier for you. You can't turn the rain off when the rain comes each afternoon. You have to learn how to deal with the difficulties of what really comes up on the trail. And I love it because you get people out there who are maybe a little timid, a little shy, not all that experienced, and you put them up against some pretty serious obstacles, and they learn how to do it. And one of the things that I love about that program is you get people that start out and they're different by the time you end. Um, I'm gonna. This is one of the things I mentioned in the Ranger. So if you go into a lot of the buildings in the backcountry or the office where all the Rangers meet, there's this phrase, just change lives, and that's really what happens at Philmont. Everyone who's involved who does it is there because, well, they want to change lives. And I know that sounds like a pretty tall order for, just a 12-day backpacking experience, but that is what actually happens at Philmont, and that's why people, keep coming back, why they love it, because we see what a difference it makes in people's lives. In the church, we have youth programs and things like that people are involved in, and we're always looking for programs, to help the youth. And problem is, like, we've got a youth camp here in the archdiocese that a lot of our kids will go to over the summer, but they know when they go to our archdiocesan youth camp that they're going to get religion. I mean, that's why we have the camp. They're going to do things like go to mass and have, adoration of the Blessed Sacrament and things that you would expect that we are going to do at a religious camp. Well, Baden Powell, who founded the Boy Scouts, was asked about religion and scouting. He says, like, there is no religious aspect to scouting. The whole thing is religious. Uh, but it's kind of in the back door. Okay, so you don't hit people over the head with okay, here you are, and so we're gonna do some overtly religious things in scouts. It's more like let's get outside in God's country and hey, look at that sunset. Isn't that beautiful? Huh. Why do you think that's beautiful? What's that about? Why do you like that? Oh, maybe God made you that way. Um, so it allows us to kind of get God in, I guess, the back door a little bit as I look at it. So there's a lot of God in scouting, but you wouldn't necessarily know that that's what you're getting yourself into. With that having been said, Philmont is unique because of the long nature of what's going on there. As every scout who comes to Philmont is going to be there over a Sunday, sometimes 2 Sundays. Uh, so what has happened is the Archbishop of Santa Fe has commuted the Sunday obligation. So instead of attending Mass on Sunday, you attend Mass on the day that you arrive at Philmont and the day that you leave Philmont. And so at Philmont, there is a Catholic chapel. So this is my little chapel where I will, right behind it is where the priests live. But, that's what a chapel at Philmont looks like. And so we celebrate Mass every day in that chapel. And so scouts from all over the country will be arriving every evening. I think it's maybe like 400 or something scouts are coming. 400 are going home, maybe something like that, or maybe it's 400 total. But every night, the whole place shuts down and everybody goes to religious service. At least everyone is encouraged to. So there's Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, and LDS. Those four are represented with their own chaplains down there, and so I love the fact that okay, this is not an overtly religious program, but okay, all of Philmont shuts down every night for people to go to religious service, either to pray for the upcoming trek or to give thanks for the trek that was just completed. So it's a great privilege to be able to be a priest now. I remember going to mass, and I thought that was just the coolest thing. When I got to Philmont, I'm like, you mean there's mass at Philmont every day, and so that's why we need priest chaplains. But especially when I was on that St. George trek that I mentioned, we had mass, not just on the day that we got there and the day that we finished, but we had mass literally every day in the backcountry. And so I had mass on a rock in the middle of the forest at Philmont, and it's some of my favorite times to celebrate mass. People are like, oh, where's the most you know, most meaningful place you've celebrated Mass, Father Sean? I'm like, I've had Mass with the Pope in St. Peter's. I've could celebrated Mass with the Pope in St. Peter's Basilica at the high altar with Pope Francis on the feast of St. Peter and Paul. That was amazing. I've had Mass, you know, underground in the cave where Jesus was born in Bethlehem. I've had Mass on Mount Calvary where Jesus died in Jerusalem. Those are all incredible experiences, and there's nothing quite like that. But I can say some of my fondest memories of where I've had Mass. It would not The list would not be complete if I didn't talk about, well, Philmont and having Mass out in the beautiful backcountry of Philmont. And here I'll share a kind of a postcard, if you will. So this is just one of the beautiful places in the backcountry. Got this beautiful pine forest, and you can just see the tooth of time there. Um, so I actually won a photo contest. I don't know if this might have got first place, or it got first or second place, I think, in the category of porch views, because there are cabins in the backcountry that talk about in a second. But when you're hiking, there are some places where you will meet up with staff, and so there are staff cabins, and they've got front porches. And so one of the categories for the photo competition was just take pictures of views of front porches of staff cabins. And so this is the view out of Carson Meadows, I believe. Yeah, so this is Carson Meadows uh, in kind of the southern area of Philmont. So a little bit less mountainous than the northern, a little more forested. But there's a beautiful view with the tooth of time in the valley there. So just to get out there and celebrate Mass in that beautiful place is something that is has been a big part of my life, and I'm not soon gonna forget. So I mentioned the staff that's out there, 1,200, I think this summer, 1,200 staff, and these are largely college age kids. So you talk about how it's real for the participants. You got real mountains, real forest, real animals. Um, well, the staff are college age kids, young adults, who will live there all summer. And so there is a staff that mans base camp. Obviously, you've got the dining hall and all the admin and check-in and procedures and everything that goes on at base camp. Then there are the rangers. There are a couple hundred rangers that will take crews out and be their kind of Philmont guides. But then throughout the backcountry, there are over 30, I think, I forget now because we added some, there are 30 some staff camps. So a typical Philmont excursion, you will go out and start hiking, and you will spend your first night normally at a camp that is just a trail camp. So it's got a hole in the ground for a latrine, and maybe water, maybe not water, and a place to pitch your tent. And so we call those trail camps because there's no staff there, and you're just camping by yourself in the forest. But in addition to the trail camps, there are also staff camps. And these have really evolved kind of over the years to now a lot of the backcountry staff camps are some kind of period kind of reenactment, historical. I mentioned that there's a lot of history that's real about the area of Philmont. So Kit Carson had his home there, so there's a lot of mountain man kind of stuff. It was a big logging area for the railroads and the mines, so there's mining, railroading, um, all of that in the history of Philmont. So the backcountry staff camps will recreate some of these period things. So do interpretation, historical interpretation, um, and this is something that again it's real because they'll go into the actual mines that were gold mines at the time and show the scouts. Well, this is what it would be like to be a miner. in the time since will take them back into the mines and show them how they mined the gold, copper, and then have them turn out their flashlights and find their way out in the dark and things like that. Or they'll let them work on building an actual real railroad. So there were a number of historical railroads that went through Philmont, and so one of the camps they're actually rebuilding uh, that railroad that went through there. So uh, it all kind of works together because in order to make the railroad, that's where the lumber companies come in. You need to make railroad ties. You also need to make supports for the mines. So the a number of the backcountry camps are logging camps where they show you how they would do logging, climb spar poles, things like that. And so maybe some of you have seen some of the like lumberjack competitions and shows on maybe like ESPN, things like that. I've been to famous lumberjack shows up in like Ketchikan, Alaska. So that's some of the staff will do that. They will present period kind of reinterpretation of logging camps or mines or railroading or mountain man or black powder shooting. And the interesting thing about these camps then is that, well, the staff end up living out in some cases historical cabins that Wade Phillips would have even had. He's got a couple. His hunting lodge and his fishing lodge are still there that Wade Phillips built and would have known. But think about these college kids, these mid 20s something, and they live all summer out in these little log cabins in the middle of the woods in the mountains. How many college kids do that? Um, I am just so impressed with the staff at Philmont that talk about changing lives of the participants. I think some of the major lives that get changed are the staff themselves because you think it's real out there as a participant. Imagine, you've got 12 days as a participant, but you got 3 months as a staff person. So you see all kinds of things, including emergencies, search and rescue, interpersonal relationships, things like that. You see it all, and there's not necessarily like at a council summer camp a quick kind of fix. There's no one leaving Philmont to say, oh, I gotta leave for a couple hours and go play a baseball game. No, you're like a couple days hike away from anywhere. So when there are emergencies or conflicts, you actually have to handle them. There's no like magic easy button to press and just make it go away or try something else. No, you gotta make it happen and you gotta figure out how to fix it. And so I love that part about Philmont as well. And it's 20 somethings doing this. And they keep coming back over and over and over because it kind of gets in you that you wanna do that. One of my famous kind of experiences out there actually came on my St. George trek in 2006 when I was out there. So I was a seminarian on that trek. Again with Bishop Conlon was my co-advisor, and I remember I was discerning. Like I'm not sure. I'm a seminarian, but do I want to be a priest? I think so, but I'm not completely sure. And one of the things that I wondered was, all right, can I give up things basically to be a priest? Because there were lots of things, material things like my job, um, and especially to be married. Could I be happy by giving things up? Uh, and that was a question that was like seriously on my mind at the time. And so I had some money. I was a software engineer, uh, and I wasn't sure, but I went to Philmont, and all of a sudden I too had the experience of a participant where day 4, is rough. Your ranger leaves and you're tired and you've been through, well, a lot. Uh and you start to wonder, can I do this? It's not easy. Do I want to do this? And you push through, and we had a crew that, some crews are pretty gung ho. They just want to do all kinds of stuff, climb mountains, go far. Our crew was not that kind of crew, and so rather than go climb some big mountain one night, we went down into staff camp a little bit early at Cypher's mine, an actual gold mine, and their program, they do music in the evening. So here's a little bit of Cypher's mine for you. So here is you can see they're in their kind of period costume. They're miners, and so they do a little musical program. But I remember that afternoon we got into camp early because we didn't climb the big mountain, and I was kind of a transition point. This is about day, I want to say 7, day 8, and I got to the mine, and we did the mine tour, and then it started to rain, and we're just hanging out on the front porch with these staff members. And I remember looking into their little cabin, and at the time, their light were candles, so there was no electricity. They had candles for light. They had a wood burning stove to cook their meals and eat, and for heat, that was their stove, and it gets cold in the mountains at night. Um, and you know they were living there all summer, so these staff lived in this little cabin in the woods, as real as any miners who would have been there before. Uh, Same mountain, same place, same candles, wood to burn, and I remember sitting on that front porch, and it starts to rain, and I'm just sitting there listening to the rain. And so you can see from the picture that, a staff person, one person starts to bring out a banjo, and another grabbed a guitar. Pretty soon a harmonica joined in, and we went for a couple hours just playing music and singing and sitting on the front porch of Cyber's Mine. And I remember thinking at the time how happy I was. And it's good to kind of take stock sometimes, and realize, how am I feeling at the end of the day. We do this at Philmont, and I realized at that moment, like, I'm really happy. I really like this, and it hit me that, I am happier than I have been maybe ever, and I don't have anything. I don't have stuff. Everything that I've got with me, I carry on my back for the last, 8 days. I'm gonna do 12 days. I carry it on my back. I don't have anything of this stuff really that I would have back in the city. And even the ideas of what would make me happy. Well, banjo and a guitar and a harmonica and a tin roof with some rain coming down in the middle of the mountains. And it really kind of hit me that, well, it doesn't take a whole lot. It doesn't take a bunch of stuff to be happy. and and so I remember coming off that St. George trek and feeling like, yeah, I think I could do this priesthood thing. God will show me how to be happy even without without a bunch of stuff, I guess. So let me show you, talk about the St. George trek. Here's a final picture of, I think we had 7 crews, so 70 people. One of those crews was females, so that's our rangers in the middle there in blue, and the 70 of us along with some support staff and things. So that's the St. George trek from 2006, and really I think is the one of the things that helped get me to say yes to continue seminary and to continue to the path to become a priest. So Philmont certainly uh, kept me coming back. Um, but one of the things that I then looked forward to is the Catholic Committee on Scouting helps provide chaplains down at Philmont. And so I thought, maybe one day I could go back and do that. And I was happy to be able to do that a couple years ago. Now, because there was a big fire in 2018, and I was 2019, and of course COVID in 20, and now I'm going to be back in 21. But people often ask about, like, well, okay, so the staff experience is, either in a backcountry camp where you're doing some of that period reenacting, or you're a ranger. But what about, chaplains? And so um, it's a little interesting that it's sort of a ministry of presence a little bit, because you're a part of the staff, but you're obviously more experienced in a lot of ways than the college kids who are out there. But also in a lot of ways, especially as a new chaplain, you realize you're not as experienced in Philmont as the people who have been there for 6 or 7 summers. Some of these kids coming back, but very quickly you kind of learn to be there. You show up, and then your day might be just visiting people, like making the rounds, seeing how people are doing, or you might end up in some kind of a crisis, because, well, one of the things that is happens is interpersonal interpersonal troubles, shall we say. And a lot of times it's the adults, quite frankly, that are creating the problems, um, because they don't always play nicely together, or well, they don't all get along. And so sometimes the backcountry staff is able to kind of deal with these things, and they're super skilled. But oftentimes, well, maybe it requires a little extra help, and that's where the chaplains can come in, because we can go out and maybe provide some counseling, a little conflict resolution management, things like that. And so a chaplain might be just the person you need to go out and maybe just help people kind of talk through things, and get some different perspectives. And so a chaplain could be the difference between a crew surviving and making the whole trek, or maybe somebody having to go home early because they can't quite do it. So I know that my time as a chaplain has been one that I'm really glad to be able to contribute my part to, maybe help save someone's itinerary that they would have otherwise had to come home had I not been there as a chaplain to maybe provide some intervention. Um, Everybody's got their kind of stories, but I'm listening right now to a podcast of the staff that have been at Philmont, and talk about how what they're doing now. And so many of the people who have been at Philmont have gone on to serve in some just incredible ways. And so it's great to be a part of this uh, place where a lot of people find themselves, and find their future as well. So I've been talking a lot, and I haven't really gotten to the questions. John Anthony says take more photos. I got a thousands of photos here. So I will be posting photos from Philmont while I'm out there. Um, but let's see if I maybe have uh, some other key photos. It is a working ranch. So there are horses and burros. Um, I don't know if I can just even, let's see if I can do this. Will this work? No. Let me see if I can get you. Okay, fine. Where are some burros? Who wants to see some cute little donkeys? How about that? I'll find you a donkey. There's some donkeys. Okay, so there's a full ranch here that includes burros, horses, and cows. And let me find you the burros. Okay, here come some cute little donkeys. So there's there's some burros that are just out grazing. You got the tooth of time in the background there, and the cute little burros in what they're doing. So I do like them. They're they're neat. Okay, burros. What else we got besides uh, burros, horses? Um, One time our crew was out there. Yeah, this was 2006, and so our crew was taking a little break. Or no, we were in for dinner, and so while we're at dinner, I'm sitting down in our campsite, and some cows just come out of the forest because it's a working ranch, and the cows, well, they get to graze, and so they get to go where they want, and so they just came out of the forest, and so there's some cows there with us. So here's another picture. This one is one of those backcountry staff camps that I mentioned. This one here is Crater Lake because this lake in front of it is, well, it's kind of like a crater. And so there's a backcountry staff there that does a campfire each night where they do some of that singing and backcountry music, which I really kind of fell in love with that kind of music, and so I normally will enjoy some bluegrass even to this day. And a lot of my start of kind of loving that music came a bit from Philmont and my time of growing to kind of love the backcountry campfires and music at Philmont. Now I mentioned the chapel at base camp. So we do have the chapels at base camp, but there are also out in the backcountry. There are a few um, also chapels. So there's a little chapel like this. This is a camp called Cimarroncito, and the mountain there in the background is Cimarroncito Mountain, Cimarroncito Peak. And so we'll have a little chapel like that where people on their backcountry excursion can go and experience uh, maybe some worship in the backcountry. Um, so one of the things that is nice when we get all the staff in there together. This is some of the staff are like maybe 3 hours away out in the wilderness from anyone at base camp, and so literally you do learn uh, how to cope with the outdoor environment. And in fact, some of the places that we get to use at Philmont are even off the boundaries of the actual physical Philmont reservation and are in a part of what's the Carson National Forest that we get to also use part of through an arrangement with the Forest Service. And so let me put up here some pictures from the Valle Vidal area of the Carson National Forest. So this is a camp called Ring Place. Yeah, that's Ring. And I love the cabin out there. It's just beautiful sky, and let me get you some mountains here. So this is also Ring Place with a nice mountain called Little Costilla in the background, and there's another shot of Little Costilla up there. So I love that kind of area up there. Just a beautiful place to be, literally out in God's country and enjoy the mountains and the forest. And like I said, you don't have to do a whole lot to force God in there. You kind of propose and let people take a look at what's going on and just enjoy it. And I apologize that I did not get a whole lot of time to prepare tonight. I'm running around all over the place and trying to take care of everything, and I ended up just sitting down and I've kind of just talked scouting stuff tonight. So anyway, this was just a little special edition of Shawn the Baptist Live to give you some idea of, well, a little bit about Philmont. And so I know for those on the podcast, this is probably not all that interesting because all the fun is happening in visual sort of ways. But I do thank you for joining me here tonight. Um, see if I have any other. Uh, so one of the things that I'm looking forward to getting back there is the other chaplains that are out there, as you might imagine. With I mentioned the four different faiths that have chaplains, so it's also a nice kind of ecumenical environment to work together with some other chaplains of different faiths, and kind of like in the military, where you are a chaplain first more than you are just a chaplain of your own denomination. Um, the same is true out at Boy Scout camp, where we really do get to work together um, with the other chaplains, and it's really great to see the way we all kind of come together, and everyone's a Philmont chaplain first before they would be, a Protestant or a Catholic chaplain or something like that. So I've got good friends out there that I'm looking forward to seeing over the next couple weeks, um, and it's going to be good to get back with them as well. I mentioned that camp at Cypher's Mind in that little place in the forest where people live. So let me throw this up here for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Here is the little cabin uh, at Cypher's Mine in the middle of the forest where people live. Yeah, there we go. Let's give you this one. Let's see it. So that's how I get around. The Suburban down there is mine. Uh, and so the roads are pretty rough. You need that four-wheel drive vehicle. That doesn't even do justice to show you the road that gets down to that canyon. But that Chevy Suburban will be my friend for the next 4 weeks, as it takes me all around the back country. And like I say, some of those camps are like a 3-hour drive to get out to some of the furthest ones, and that's if the roads are passable. Um, so do pray for me out there. As I said last week, I'm going to try to, as best I can, do some. We'll do some shows from out there, and I'll hopefully get some videos and things like that to give you a better flavor while I'm out there. So this was a little bit of a boring show for sure tonight because I didn't get a chance to plan it very well because I got busy all day. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Philmont and at least show some pictures. And it will be better when I actually get out there because then I can do a few more live things and give you a chance to see some of the real beauty live. And maybe I'll interview a burro or something like that. So morning message, things like that. I'm gonna continue to try to do it, but as you might imagine, being out in the wilderness, the internet is, well, somewhat unpredictable. So bear with me, and I will try to do the best I can with the internet that I have to try to get you some good stuff from Philmont. But until then, tomorrow I fly to Albuquerque. I will be there until July 3rd when I come back, and my next installment of Shawn the Baptist Live, whatever that will look like, will be from the mountains of Philmont. So I thank you for joining me tonight. And if you've got questions or things you want to see, uh, feel free. I got really no feedback from people tonight exactly, although Larry says he likes my stories. So that's nice. This was a little random because I like to have people in front of me, and I have no idea if you guys like this or not. I'm not even checking over on the St. Patrick's page to see what people thought. We'll do something on Scouts later that will be a little bit more organized, and I'll like maybe make the video ahead of time. But until then, this has been Shawn the Baptist Live, a special I Want to Go Back to Philmont edition. And yeah, in a day and a half, I'll be there. And so I look forward to bringing you there too for Shawn the Baptist live on location at Philmont Scout Ranch in northern New Mexico next week. Until then, good scouting and God bless you.